Are we okay? We're going to fucking... We've got to do the fucking shit that we for fucking drug abuse. No! Are you listening?
Sean here, and today's topic is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. I've wondered, but I also am pretty sure I know, and we all kind of know parts of it. When Lorne Armstrong showed up to the house in Bowling Green, I honestly do not believe he had sex on his mind. He had going in and seeing her, because that was validation for all of the hard work he did, for all of the grooming. This was going to be the culmination. This was the pinnacle of Lorne Armstrong's life. Lorne bounds into the house and he sees Casey. Some people say it's desperation. I say it's initial confusion. But he goes along with it because it's too awkward for him to go, you don't look like your pictures. Because he's trying to get a good gauge on what's going on. It's one of those, I've been on some blind dates before, or I've been on some Tinder dates since my divorce, and you show up and you're like, am I talking to the right person? Okay, maybe it's awkward if I was to say, you don't look anything like your picture. But to Lorne, we know he worked very hard. And Casey Morrow she was pretty. So here's the deal. If she was ugly, Lorne might have said something. If he thought she was unattractive, he might have said, you don't look anything like your picture, because it's Lorne. But because Casey was attractive, he switched gears and said, you know what, you may not look like this 13-year-old girl I've been grooming, but you're still pretty, and I'm still going to go for it, because this may be my only chance. Walking into a giant house like that in a new situation is going to be overwhelming. And it is going to overtake Lorne, because remember, he lives in an apartment at the time, I think it was, this little rundown apartment. So he's walking into this giant house. Now, if you notice something, he didn't really look around. Most people would have stopped, looked around, and said, wow, this is a nice house. But not Lorne. Think about that point for a second. You walk into something that would be considered a mansion to you, and you didn't look around and go, wow, this is awesome. Some of the predators said nice digs to whoever, they were going in to see. But Lorne never even mentioned the house. He was so focused on her and doing whatever she wanted him to do. Get in a chair. My butt's getting hot. He just went along with everything. And that was probably desperation. Let's just get to the part where you kiss me. I won't kiss first. I don't think he really wanted to kiss. I think if she came over and tried to kiss him, I think he would panic a little bit. But I also said that his mouth would be wide open and he'd have her nose in there because he doesn't know how to kiss. He's seen it in movies. I can't imagine, bologna and cigarette and Bud Light breath rolling up in there, smelling like 3-day-old ham. Oh, God. I felt so bad for Casey. But she did say she felt at ease with him because he was so, jovial. But Lorne, he didn't even say anything about the house. He did say something about her hair. I thought you had blonde hair. We all know that. So that was Lorne's first thing about going, I liked your blonde hair more than your brunette hair. But that's as far as he was going to go. He didn't want to say anything else because he didn't want to make her angry. Remember, he showed up there for one reason and one reason only. So keeping that jovial vibe, keeping that happiness, keeping the feel-good moments. I think he really thought he was showing up to meet his girlfriend. I think he thought they were truly boyfriend and girlfriend. Do you remember when he was like, of course I want to be naked with you. Why wouldn't I want to be naked with you? I love you. I mean, he was fully committed by this time. That is a trait of a psychopath, by the way. And in the video, I'm doing the research video, I don't discuss that. But I think I am going to make something about that because Lorne has all the traits. I read it, I went back and reread it, and then I watched a lecture by one of the famous psychologists out there, and he really laid it out. And I just kept thinking, Lorne. Why did I bring up the psychopath? Because I think that Casey Morrow or Kayla or whoever it was going to be dodged a bullet. I think they dodged a bullet because I told you what would happen if Lorne didn't get his way. We know what would have happened. It would have gotten violent, and and he would have trapped her in his trailer or apartment or wherever they were going. But we're talking about him in the house. So he sits down, and he's going to go along with whatever she says. He just wants to keep the conversation going. Lorne, what'd you do today? Well, I took a shower, put some deodorant on. I found some underneath the couch. Brushed my teeth, I think. I can't remember. Drank some coffee, and that was it. Because if she asked him about his day, the conversation's over in 30 seconds. But he's trying to experience whatever she wants him to experience. So he sits in that chair. We know what happens. Everybody know what happens. He's giddy. He's so happy. He's finally going to have a girlfriend. And then, my favorite moment, I've mentioned it before, the moment the soul leaves the body. The first time we ever see a light blue soul in the shape of Lorne Armstrong get up out of that chair, walk out the front door, get back in his truck, and drive all the way back to Nashville. Chris Hansen walking out, and Lorne initially being confused. We know he's confused. His blood immediately ran cold. Just like a child who'd been busted, Lorne has that child mind. His blood ran cold. He had confusion. His heart sank, and he was already starting to try to formulate an excuse. And the only thing he could get out was, not really, I was never really gonna do anything. Knowing he was already done. He had to have known they had the chat log. I think Lorne, he knew a lot about grooming and consequences, but he didn't know about anything else. He didn't know about the technology. He knew enough, and I told you I think he had help. So Chris comes out, his blood runs cold. He's desperately trying to figure out an excuse, something that would get him out of the situation. But we knew it was already too late, and he should have known it was already too late, because dealing with sheriffs and everything else, and he thought that Chris was a cop, I'm certain, and he just went full-on cuck mode. He just shut down Beta, anti-Joran, because we know Joran's the alpha wolf. I apologize for the background noise. Again, where I live, the roads are terrible. But we're talking about Chris, and he sits down and he starts asking questions. And Lorne in his head, he's not really hearing what Chris is saying. But after a few questions, he is focused on every word, because you know how Lorne, he hyper-focuses on what people say, and he wants to pick out little tidbits so that he can hear what he wants to hear, and he's already formulating his responses. So when Chris gets to the part and he starts that Amanda James story, he's pausing, he's thinking, how can I make this the most interesting and pathetic story ever? The Amanda James story will forever baffle us, because if I was in a situation like that, you would think you would want to come up with something like, I had my heart broken so many times, I was devastated. I'm just talking about Lorne here. I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. She was the only girl that seemed to care about me. But no, he went on a story about catfishing, to which Chris was thinking, not, oh, I feel sorry for you, but you just fell for it again. You didn't get any proof, none whatsoever. You had no proof, but you went along with it because she was saying K and whatever you wanted her to. I know he was thinking, Lorne, you idiot, you just got catfished again, but this time in the worst possible way, or the best possible way for us, but the worst possible way for you. One thing that bothered me is in some of the other investigations, he would mention that you hit up multiple decoys. Now, maybe it's because Lorne didn't really have long conversations with them. Maybe he didn't mention it, but I wish he would have said, hey, you spoke to these two girls. What was up with that? Why did you talk to them? And I wish he would have said, what would you have done if there was a kid who was alone in the house and it was a boy? I know Tiffany asked him that, but I wanted Chris to word it in a way that he couldn't escape. What would you do, Lorne, if you care about kids so much? What would you do if a boy was alone? What would you do if he was suicidal? You would immediately leave him in the chat to his own fate. You wouldn't even try to help. But if a girl was suicidal, you'd instantly change the conversation over to sex, because you couldn't handle it if it wasn't about what you wanted to talk about. You'd say, oh, that's terrible. I just don't understand the way he thinks. And I think if that girl really was in trouble, that girl was alone. and she was talking to an adult. Now, any normal adult, if she had reached out to you first, okay, I'm not talking about if you reached out to her, but if she had reached out to you first, any normal adult would have said, hey, you don't need to be on here. And maybe at the time, I don't know how much people knew about what you could and couldn't do. So I don't know if they knew about the internet police, is what they used to call it back then. We used to joke, you know, the internet police. Now that means something totally different, but that's what any normal adult would do. And I wish Chris would have brought that up. You know, he said, at first you seem like the protector. I'm Chris Hansen. Sorry, I got that sloth cat animated video in my head. Yell at me, why don't you? But he didn't do that. I wanted Chris to say, if you were the protector, why didn't you do A? And if A didn't work, why didn't you do B? Because you did nothing, Lorne. You did nothing to try to help her or protect her. But he let him off light on that. And I can understand they have other guys coming. And to address everything that Lorne Armstrong did would have just taken too long. And Chris Hansen, God bless him, because he called him out with and that was so great. That moment was so great. And Lorne went into crying mode. Gotta do something, I can't do this. God, oh my God. I just think Chris could have been a little more forceful with him and went in for the kill. Lorne deserved it. If I was Chris Hansen and I had read portions of that chat enough to where I got a feel for what this guy was doing, I would have been enraged and I would have gone at him full force. I wouldn't have held back. I would have made him admit to it. But that's hindsight. I've often wondered what would have happened if they brought Casey back out and had her stand in front of Lorne and said, what would you have done, Lorne, if a 13-year-old that looked like her was standing in front of you and asked you to go back to her bedroom? Lorne would have gone, well, you know, I would have said, no, you're too young. Lorne, we have 30 days of chat of you trying to groom this 13-year-old, and you're telling me you just asked her for a kiss, which I wish Chris would have brought that up as well. You just asked her for a kiss, and you're telling me you wouldn't go back there with her. You hadn't been in the house but a minute when you were asking for physical contact. Sitting Lorne down and making him watch this NBC program and making him, well, tying him down so he can't leave and having him analyze every section and give his excuse in front of a group of people would be epic. He couldn't defend it. He couldn't deflect. And we're talking about the extended version. And then we'd read the chat log with him. He always says, oh, it's so grossed out. Couldn't believe I said that. Shocked. No, that's not true, Lorne. You just wanted to get through it because you wanted to get to the point where Debbie said she loved you, even though she said she hated you. But those are my thoughts on what was going on when he showed up at Bowling Green. And I could have done a lot more, but those are just my initial thoughts. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.